Hi everyone, welcome back to Around the Block with GoodBlock. Leah here from the GoodBlock team. We also have Douglas, GoodBlock CEO, and one of our favorites, Daniel. How are you, Daniel?
Hey, thanks. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on again. And that's
Daniel,
Welcome
very
back.
kind of you to call me one of your favorites. I appreciate that.
yeah, it's lots of love for you and your team from the GoodBlock end. I know that much. So, for those that don't know, Daniel Keys is over at EOS Nation, and he is here today to talk to us about public goods, and more specifically, a platform he helped develop that allows people to get paid to produce public goods called Pomelo. And the way Pomelo works is it has seasons of funding seasons, and it just so happens that season 4 is already upon us. Before we dive in, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so anytime we post, you'll be one of the first to know about it. So let's jump into it. Can you just give background for people that are maybe just learning about Pomelo, about what it is and how did it get its start?
Yeah, happy to. So as you said, Pomelo is a platform to basically allow the community to collaborate to determine and support the development of public goods, and in particular digital public goods for the Antelope ecosystem. So practically speaking, and how it got its start, we got all these Antelope chains. It started on EOS, and that's where it primarily operates. And it's over time we've been kind of branching out more and more to the other Antelope chains, and we've been having participation from Telos community. Starting last season, season 3, we saw kind of a big jump there. Thanks a lot to the work that Telos Culture team has been doing to promote it. But it was developed to solve a problem in this open source community we've got. Public goods are critical for communities. And what a public good is it's those things that are free to access, that everyone is able to access regardless of how many other people are accessing it. So it's non-rivalrous, means anyone can access it without a cost. And it's, that's non-exclusive. Non-rivalrous means that by one person accessing it, it doesn't prevent someone else from accessing it. So when we're talking about things like Antelope blockchains, things like the free to access APIs, the wallets, the educational
Block
content,
Explorers.
that block explorers. So these are all things that for a blockchain to work for a community to actually be able to get value out of that blockchain, there's these tools that the community expects to be able to use, and they don't expect to have to pay for it, which brings up this, what they call the free rider problem. How do you fund something that nobody wants to pay for? And EOS launched with this. In the white paper, it talked about there's going to be this worker proposal system. There's going to be 4% of inflation going to a savings account. There would be a worker proposal system that then the community can vote on how we direct the funds. And that was written in the white paper, but it wasn't written in the code when EOS launched. So it was up to the community to figure, okay, the code had written was start sending 4% inflation to the savings account, but no mechanism to come to consensus on how do we distribute that inflation. And over a number of years, we found that the community wasn't able to come to consensus on how to distribute these funds, and it was basically just sort of put aside, scrapped. The EOS community ended up burning the funds that accumulated in there. But what was happening over time was EOS was suffering. Again, like I said, again, those public goods are critical to have a thriving community. And when they're not getting funded, users start going somewhere else. Developers, who are the ones who like to build those public goods, they have no opportunity to get funding to build them, so they go somewhere else. And they start building public goods on chains that have opportunities for developers to get funded. So Pomelo was EOS Nation's, I think, third attempt to come to consensus and build some system that solves this problem. I kind of glossed over we actually collaborated with a number of block producers to build an initial, first it was a referendum system to get the community to vote on what will that mechanism be. Then we built an MVP of another type of a worker proposal system. We failed to get consensus of some of the largest stakeholders, namely Block One. They were a large stakeholder who basically vetoed the design that we came up with. And then it was through to Block One's credit, through collaboration with them, where we landed on the model of Pomelo, which is heavily modeled after Gitcoin, which is operating on the Ethereum blockchain. To develop a system where there's a pool of funds provided by the network, where the community can essentially vote on how those funds are distributed by donating to the grants, the projects that they want to see those funds distributed to. And we're matching their donations with a quadratic formula that factors in both the value of the donation and the number of unique donors that donated to the grant. So it distributes it in a democratic way where it's not just one whale who can decide who's going to get this money. There's the community's participation has a large impact on how those funds are distributed. And what we've been seeing, we're now on season 4. We just had our 1-year anniversary since Pomelo launched, is a pretty drastic reversal in terms of the engagement of developers in the ecosystem, the flourishing of public goods. People are, and we're seeing season over season, because these are oftentimes open source building blocks that people are building. Things that get developed in season 1 of Pomelo are then used as building blocks by other people building new things in season 2. And we just got this like exponential growth of value creation because of these positive externalities that come out of public goods. Pomelo can't take all the credit for this turnaround. It was, we kicked out Block One. We started the EOS Network Foundation, elected and they've been doing a lot of supporting of the general ecosystem as well. But Pomelo is, the EOS Network Foundation is sort of this top-down organization funding the big initiatives, like the development of Antelope, where you can look at Pomelo as this bottom-up funding of the little crazy experiments that some people might have ideas that they want to see funded, and now they have an opportunity to build a reputation, get attention from the community, and get that thing actually developed and feed their team.
So you're saying, when you said you've seen a turnaround, you mean that by now having a way to support the projects, the individual projects that people in the community like, but don't necessarily have large companies behind them or whatever, by supporting these, now there's more engagement, there's more projects coming in, and the ecosystem is thriving more. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah. A couple of things. We're seeing things being built that previously were not being built, and we're seeing teams, either new teams, join the ecosystem that previously weren't here and they're telling us, "Hey, I have this idea. I see there's an opportunity to get it funded, so I'm here. I'm going to build it here." And we see some of those developers that have left returning, saying,
"It's great.
There was no opportunity before. Now there is. The only, I still love this technology and this community, but I couldn't sustain myself as a business previously. I had to go somewhere else. Great. Now there's a way to sustain myself. I still love the community and the technology. Now I can justify coming back and continuing to build there."
There's an interesting story to me that runs parallel here, right? So EOS did not have several things that were described in the white paper because Block One didn't build them. That was part of, we thought that was important in Telos, and so that was actually part of why we launched Telos, and we did build those things. We built a worker proposal system, Telos Works, pretty early, and another number of other governance things, and we were able, before we had any ongoing funding, we were able to fund marketing. Like before there was ever a Telos Foundation, Leah, you and CJ were, paid by Telos Works to fund, to fund your marketing, and the people working before there was any kind of funding or official whatever TCD. We were also only paid through making proposals to the Telos Works. Of course, now there's ongoing funding, but there's still a lot of projects that that don't have any other source of funding and aren't given grants and things like that, but people may want to support. So it's very interesting to me to have started out here now seeing EOS didn't have this, but then created this system that called Pomelo, which is creating a benefit that you're talking about, which I also agree and see is happening. And at the same time, there are some people who are wanting to revisit Telos Works, which I find that these sort of like contrasts and parallels are really fascinating in how these things are working, because we can look at each other, we can look at how Pomelo is working. We can look at how Telos Works is working, and we can learn from each other. So it's interesting that they're kind of going in separate directions at this particular moment.
Yeah, and I think it's good that there's multiple directions going in parallel, because we don't know what the right, we can look at Pomelo as a bit of an experiment. It's still not perfect. We're iterating every season, getting a little better and better every season. Based on what we've seen in how things happen on Ethereum, it looks like a great model. They've been doing this now for a number of years. I think they just had their 16th season, if I'm not mistaken. So we're just having now our fourth. So we learned a lot observing, even outside of the Antelope ecosystem, what's happening on Ethereum. We've learned through our own attempts. We're watching what you guys are doing, and I think it's good that everyone's doing things a little bit differently, because then we can experiment in parallel and then take what works from each other and make everything better.
Iteration is a very powerful process in developing anything new, and I think it's great that we're doing it. I've been involved with just as a donor since the first season. The only season I didn't do anything on was season 2, but it's less and less as time goes on. So I'm already looking at which projects I want to support in season 4. Can you talk a little bit about the process of how people vote, when the funds go in, what kind of funds people actually end up getting? Because the one thing that I've been that came as a little surprise to me was I don't think that there's, if I have one, now I don't know if it's a complaint or observation or whatever, if I have one observation about Pomelo, most projects don't get very much money, right? It's not, and so I love to hear about the process, and then also if you think that that's a feature or a bug or what.
Yeah, happy to. So the way that it works is anybody can apply to create a grant, and it happens. So we run Pomelo in seasons. So every quarter we have a new season. There's a period of time where you can now submit your applications. The Pomelo team reviews the applications, and really all we're checking for is, does it meet the definition of a public good? Does it hit that criteria of non-excludable and non-rivalrous? If it does, it gets approved. The donation period starts and runs for about 3 weeks. And when the donation period is on, anybody who has EOS tokens can donate to whatever project that they want to support. Donate to as many projects as you like. We're tallying all the time what the matching allocation is based on the quadratic formula. You can always see those estimates appearing in the grant cards. We call them estimates because they change all the time. They can go up and down depending on if other grants have gotten more donations or not. And then we have an analysis period at the end. Because of this quadratic nature, there's a incentive to cheat, to do a Sybil attack. And a Sybil attack, for those who don't know, is when one person creates many identities to try to manipulate a system. So because the quadratic
we talked
formula,
about this last time you were on, actually, right? So,
right.
and I revealed that I had voted for using two addresses, and you were like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
I had actually, but one had been personal funds and one had been had been company funds, so you let me off the hook. But
Yeah.
it's interesting, right? So people could come in and say, okay, rather than giving 20 EOS with one account, I'm going to make 20 accounts and give one EOS each, because I still only have to donate 20 EOS, but what I want my funds to go to end up getting much more, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
are you seeing much of that happening? I think last time we talked about it, you said you felt like you had a pretty good bead on people
Yeah.
doing that and
We're definitely
cheating.
seeing it, but that's part of the process. So again, after the donation period ends is our analysis period. We've built some pretty advanced tool. We've built something called EOS Detective, which is a way to analyze token transfers, the origin of the tokens and how they've traveled. And we started automating some of that stuff. And every season we're adding more and more layers of detection. And then we make a judgment call. It's not perfect. Sometimes there's gray areas. So we do our best to make a fair judgment, and we'll adjust the matching allocation according to the findings and produce a report explaining here's what we did and why. But sometimes it's obvious. Like oh yeah, here's the one account sending one EOS to these 20 accounts, and they're all donating to one grant.
Yeah.
And we just either we can remove those donations from the matching, or sometimes we'll collapse them. So if
Just treat it as one.
Yeah, so if we have evidence that the grant owner was involved we could even disqualify the grant. Sometimes you don't know that it was actually the person who created the grant who's doing that. It could be anybody trying to sabotage. It's
very hard to know.
Yeah.
Somebody will be kind of careless. There's enough anonymity built into the system.
Yeah. So we try our best not to penalize the grant owner unless we have real evidence that they were acting maliciously. We'll just collapse, count those 20 donors as one donor, and the donation still gets matched.
Every system has problems, and every system has ways that people will attempt to game them. And so it sounds to me like you're doing fine, right?
Yeah. Few things we want to improve. Like, we don't want to be the judge, jury, and executioner. Over time, we want to delegate some of these roles to the community, because the goal with Pomelo is kind of make it a community decision platform. Right now, it's still very centralized within the Pomelo team. We get to decide who's allowed to have a grant based on the criteria we've set. We make the rules, and we judge if the rules have been broken, and then we take action on what we find. And the community gets to decide how the matching pool is distributed by donating. Over time, we each of these rules, slowly we want to kind of delegate to the community. We're still working through exactly how that will look. We can observe on how Gitcoin does it. They've got a DAO, and they've all these a governance token and all that stuff. Whether that's the approach we take or not, we're still learning and figuring that out. And the other thing is strengthening. The idea with Pomelo is it's like this wisdom of the crowd. How can we strengthen the signal of that wisdom? Something that we do see is, maybe grants not cheating. They're not, but maybe they're very good at marketing and not very good at delivering. And as a result, they do very well in Pomelo. And right now, there's not strong mechanisms for the community to call them out.
Right.
Hey, wait a second, we don't have commenting. Right.
Does that happen in future seasons or anything?
Yeah, so that's something we're working on.
You didn't deliver from the first two seasons. Why would we give you any money this time?
Right. So there's again things we have plans to improve in the future, and things actually the new feature of season 4 is something called collections, which sort of somewhat addresses that problem. Not exactly, not fully.
How does that work?
So what a collection is anybody can create a collection of the grants that they want to support and sort of advertise them. So there's a whole new section within Pomelo. You go to collections. The idea is it's almost like a proxy.
You're like a curator.
Yes, exactly. So anybody can, and there's a few problems it addresses. It's not just so holding grants accountable that, hey, you actually delivered what you said you would, is one part this solves. The other problem is every season there's more and more grants being created, and different levels of technical understanding required to be able to judge whether it's actually a valuable grant or not. So it's a huge burden for a donor to, if you really want to have, I've got some money, I want to have my say on how I impact the distribution of these funds. Reading through, last season we had 170 grants approved. We had 70 something in season. Every season it's going up and up and up and up and up. So I assume we're going to have more this season. To read through all those grants and make a judgment call, and maybe you have no technical knowledge. It's a burden.
So it seems like you need a Pomelo project that will go and evaluate other Pomelo projects.
Exactly. So
I wanted that for Telos Works for a long time too, because it's like,
So, and now that we have collections, so I've been saying, I'm looking forward to seeing a grant application. I've like mentioned this to the community. Who's going to be the first one to create a Pomelo grant to be the Pomelo grant auditor? And then they can create a collection with these are the grants that are delivering what they say they were. And then maybe there's a collection. These are the grants that aren't. That's a first step. And then over time, we want to do more and more, formalizing some of these stuff, giving people the ability to comment, upvote, downvote. These are stuff that we have on the roadmap for the future.
Who's doing that work now? So, I mean, it's your team is doing that work. Are you getting paid for that, or are you doing it as a public good itself? Or, Pomelo encourages public goods, but is it actually as well a public good, or is there revenue going to you guys? And not that there shouldn't be, because there's work to be performed. How do you guys approach that, though?
Yeah, so we are being funded by the EOS Network Foundation to develop and operate Pomelo. The scope, though, is like we're trying to be as neutral as possible. So we're not spending time exactly, for example, checking that you did what you said you did. And we're trying to, when we're reviewing an application, is it a public good or is it not? And did you break the rules or not? And that's it. We really want the community to step in to be the judge of, is this actually quality? Are they actually doing? And our responsibility is just to provide the community with the tools to help them surface that knowledge better.
So here's a crazy idea, because those are the only kind I get usually. The ENF, as I recall from my work, close work with them in Antelope Coalition, is that everything they do has to be open source. And so I imagine Pomelo is as well, right?
Yeah. So
can you imagine a scenario where somebody takes that code and launches Kumquat and as a not necessarily a competition, but an alternative where maybe that focuses on certain types of projects, or maybe that says, hey, we're just like Pomelo, but we're using additional funds to track things through their life cycle. Or there could be also, banana where people, where it's like anything goes, we don't care. But nobody can get more than 200 EOs. Like once you've built this software and this mindset for people, it feels like there could be a lot of different ways that it could be implemented. What do you think about that? I mean, I'm not trying to sink Pomelo, quite the opposite, but what do you think that's going to happen?
Yeah, it's absolutely a possibility. Currently, our smart contracts are open source, not the front end. Our goal is to eventually open source the front end. We're redoing it all in the process of doing that. A big part of the burden, though, is the administrative aspect of it. So even if the code is there, how to run it, how to get the matching pool, all that stuff. So if you've got a source of funds to create your matching pool, and you've got the will and the team to be able to operate it, I absolutely don't. I don't see why not. It's kind of what we did with Gitcoin. We didn't fork their code. We took the inspiration and built it specifically for Antelope. We're hoping to make it so that that's not necessary. So another thing that's on the roadmap with Pomelo is having multiple pools within a season. So for example, if the Telos community wanted to have a Telos funded matching pool, it's Telos tokens, and maybe you want to set your own rules, as a matching partner who's provided a pool of funds to operate in Pomelo, you maybe you'll say, well, I don't actually care if this is a public good. Let's make the rule so it can be anything. And let's make a rule so that you have to accept your donations in Telos, and it has to be launched on Telos. We
Wow,
could
you
have
were
a
really
DeFi pool. This is a pool just for DeFi projects, and it's funded by large players in the DeFi ecosystem. And this would all happen in parallel. So again, another part of the value of keeping it all on, is the attention. What makes Pomelo work is the community participating. If you only have a handful of people participating, doesn't matter if you have quadratic. The grant who wants it will get the whole pool, because all it takes is getting 5. So having an active, engaged community participating at the same time, we can do these pools in parallel. And again, this is not a new idea. Where Bitcoin is doing this already. So it would be another idea to borrow from them. You have your main pot. This is public goods, and then you have your side pools that are all running at the same time. And then as a grant owner, decide which pool you want to participate in, and they may all have slightly different rules.
That's a great idea. And I definitely think that when your team's ready to kind of launch that part of the initiative, I would say that GoodBlock would probably be interested in checking out with you guys and participating in some way. Because, yeah, let's keep everyone kind of in the same ecosystem so that, everyone, rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Yeah.
So,
And we already from the start designed it and built the smart contracts to support that feature, because we know it's on a roadmap. It's just a matter of when will we have the matching partner appetite to create this side pool. And in terms of Telos, one thing that we're looking forward to is IBC, which is coming soon. So we want to be able to support, donate with Telos, donate with Wax, donate with whatever you want, and we can support it. It's going to take some time. Probably even from the time that IBC becomes available, there's still a lot of, from what I understand, the Greymass team are working on the SDKs to support IBC. So we need IBC. We probably will need these SDKs, and then we can start supporting multi-chain donations. In the meantime, though, there's nothing stopping someone from saying, hey, I'm going to create a Telos side pool. It's going to be EOS donations. But there is an opportunity to have, custom rules and things like that.
I think there was actually a Telos Works proposal to create a Telos side pool that Telos Culture did. Do you remember that?
I think the main sticking point was the fact that donations can't happen in Telos tokens. There was, I think, a downward pressure on the Telos price sphere or something like that.
I mean, that's always a fear, and it's a reasonable fear, but it may not be as important as some of the things that you can create, like that you're seeing the developers coming back and building new things and the system growing.
well, you know what? That's the beauty of it. You can float the idea as many times as we, need or want. If someone still thinks it's a good idea, they can propose it again. And as we've seen in this space, minds change. People are open to ideas. Sometimes it just takes a few times to get it. Well, as we come closer to the end of our time with Daniel here, can you tell us a little bit about season 4 more intimately? We are currently in season 4. It seems like you guys are taking votes right now, and donations and projects are launching. When does this season end? And then when do donations open? And then when are the funds distributed?
Sure. Yeah. So donations are already open. We're about a week into donations. The donations opened on November the 23rd. So we're about a week in. You can continue to submit applications until December 7th, and donations will continue until December 14th. So there's sort of this staggered 1 week of application submissions, and we open donations, and there's in parallel, and then we close applications, and then a week later we close donations. So already, I can share already some early stats. We've got so far 113 grants have been approved, and we've raised 18,000 EOS in donations. It's about $17,000 US dollars has been donated to, and the matching pool this season is $365,000. That's mostly from the EOS Network Foundation. 350,000 of that is from the EOS Network Foundation. The remaining, we have, we talked about Sybil before. One of our Sybil defenses is we have a fee. 10% was last season. We actually just increased that to 20%. Goes aside, doesn't go to the grant that you're sending the donation to. It goes aside for the matching pool for the next season.
I like
and
that.
that's as a deterrent to, if you're breaking the rules and you get caught, you lose that 20%.
That's smart.
So that's grown the pool, and we also do our NFT. Every season we have an NFT series to help promote the lead up to the season, and all of the primary sales from that go to the matching pool. So altogether, 350 from the EOS Network Foundation, 365 in total when you factor in those additional amounts.
I was looking at that the other day, and they all sold out. It looks like already.
Did they? That's news to me.
That's what it looked like to me. I might have, I was like, I'm tired of just having this weird pair, gray pair is my thing. So I looked, I remember last season it was astronauts, right? Is what you kind of like, because it's not straightforward. You don't just buy an NFT. It's a little bit of like crafting in Minecraft and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
You get your rocks and your energy crystals and now you get your potions, and then in the end you get these like moon robots, right?
Yeah. So and there's always like a tie-in from the previous season. So yeah, you start off with a rock, and then we sell the grant collectible pack. So we try to honor the top grants of the previous season, and we create almost like baseball cards with their stats from the season, their logo. So you can collect all the grant collectibles, or you can blend your couple rocks, four rocks and one grant collectible to create a potion. The potion mine is like a mining. Every day you can claim a new. Last season it was rockets. This season it's robots. And then if you collect enough robots, you can combine them to create. We haven't announced yet what it is going to be. This actually we've hinted at it. So
this won't be out for several days, so
it may already be live by then. So we're building moon bases. So last season we were building rockets to get to the moon, and your final thing was a moon, anywhere from rare to common and super rare. Similarly, this season you can combine your robots to create moon bases.
Yep.
And the plan next
season
is
already out. It's already on the website. Yep, as of yesterday, it was.
There you go. Yeah. So we'll be, and then next season we'll explore the outer reaches of space, and we'll see what we find there.
Make your little Elon Musks so that you can go to Mars.
That's right. And then nice. and these, you can set these all as profile pictures in Pomelo and banners, and it actually is an interesting little actual sort of a Sybil thing as well. Like when you look at the donors on a grant, oftentimes the ones that had a lot of Sybil, it's all gray Pomelos that are donating to it. And you look at the grants that have a lot of true community support, and it's a strong, mix. There's some gray ones in there too, but a lot of them have these profile pictures that they've blended their way towards. And we support also, third party. We've got like Eden. If you're a member of Eden, I'm not sure if your community is familiar with Eden. It's another DAO within the EOS ecosystem that
I think we know about Eden. Yeah.
So everyone who's an Eden member has an Eden profile picture that's an NFT that's tied to their identity. If you're linking that account to Pomelo, you can display your Eden profile picture, prove that you've proven yourself through the Eden process.
When we have IBC and we have Telos engaging more, we could probably use either their Telos. There's a Telos profiles system which is pretty cool. And you can add your stuff. And there's some talk about adopting that across all the Antelope chains, and or maybe Telos based NFTs for the for the same thing. I love the idea of like putting some personality into it, like just expanding with all these great tools that we have. So,
Yeah.
and I'm tired of having a gray one. Fortunately, on mine, I had a couple of badges for being a top 50
Right.
donor in past season. So I'm using those for right now, but
Cool.
I really want my moon base.
Yeah.
That's
It's I've been having fun playing with it myself.
Well, you guys, we are at the end of our time. So before we go, we need to know, where can people learn more about Pomelo? Because I'm sure after this, a few people will be interested to look into it and see if they have something that they think could possibly, help be a public good and get funding.
Yeah, the best place is just go to the website pomelo.io, and we from there you can check it out, play with it. The best way to learn, I find, is by doing. But we also link to all of the there's a wiki that we link to. Click the Learn How It Works button, and we explain all the rules and go into the footer, and we link to our Medium blog where we're publishing lots of content that explains things like what's a public good and what's quadratic funding and how do you promote your grant effectively and these sort of things, and all our socials as well. So we've got a Telegram channel that seems to be the most active of all of our groups we're managing. We're also on Discord, but we've got a long history of Telegram on in the EOS community, and a lot of
Too.
those folks are sticking around there.
And they're
Uh,
making a crypto wallet in exchange. So
wow, I did not know. That's cool. So there you go.
Telegram's love for the crypto community only grows. That's awesome.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
will link to all that information in the show description below. So
great,
for everyone that needs that, you don't feel like you have to pause and write it down. We will have those links for you.
All
awesome.
right. That's like a Leah alpha drop at the end there.
Sorry.
I'm usually the one who gets to do that.
Well, it's just Telegram's gotten so much criticism, but they have been our home. It has been our home for about 4 years now. I think they love us, the crypto community. So I'm excited they're making that exchange and that
And
wallet.
a call to action, I guess, for those of you in your community who are maybe wondering, like going back to the question, I don't think I fully answered that you had earlier, Douglas, about some projects don't make a lot of money on Pomelo. How do they? And I would say don't get discouraged by that. The kind of the idea with Pomelo is that you're building a reputation season over season. So the first time you participate, you might not get a lot of funds directed to you. Use that as a learning experience. Start building a reputation. Build an MVP from the funds you raised in the first season.
Deliver,
Deliver,
and promise
and
more
then
cool stuff.
come back next
Yeah.
season and show what you delivered. And every season you're going to grow your reputation and earn more and more every season.
So
That's
it's
awesome.
not, yeah, I think that's great. And that's what it seemed like to me, because I keep seeing the same things coming over and over again. But they're not asking in the best cases, they're not asking for funds for the same thing. They're biting off something that they can chew within that, that season, and then bringing back, something valuable for the community, uh, and then exciting for their next thing. So,
Right.
I think it's a great process. I'm a huge fan of funding. I don't see these things I don't see Telos Works and Pomelo as competitors at all. I think that there's, more and more is better, right? Because ultimately there's a lot of chains out there, and you need to be able to have a way to build cool stuff and fund people. And some of the most fun days of Telos to me were when people are super excited about the stuff that that was getting proposed and funded, and I see a similar pattern happening on EOS since you guys brought in Pomelo.
Yeah, like I said, it's a different environment. It feels like since we started with Pomelo.
Well, you know what? I see a world in the near future where Pomelo is just even bigger than the Antelope ecosystem, because once normal people can you were saying the different pools for different reasons. eventually someone smart is going to be like, there's an ESG pool just for those kind of things. And I like that people have to put their money where their mouth is. They do have to make a donation, but it's not just for people with a lot of money, because the donation can be small and it's going to yield more than what put in just based on the quadratic funding. So I think, ideal world, we market this to the world at large. And, who knows? You're right. It's, we have to dream big here. That's the whole point. So where can we find you and EOS Nation? Because you guys are huge supporters of the EOS ecosystem and the Antelope system as a whole. You're also a block producer on Telos. How can our community find out more about you and what you guys are doing? Because you guys are really, at this point, one of the OG block producer providers in the Antelope space, and you've done a ton.
Yeah, thank you. So our website, eosnation.io. You can follow me on Twitter. That's where probably I'm most active publicly. Daniel_Keys. That's Keyes. And those are really eosnation.io. We link to everything we do there, and we'll continue to do that.
Absolutely. And for our Telos crew, check them out and consider voting for them as one of your block producers. They do so much.
You guys really do a lot. You behind the scenes, you have a lot of technical know-how, and that you share freely with other BPs. I appreciate that very much. You have you on all the chains you're on. You look at you have some quantifiable measurements for each block producer in terms of things like speed and resources and stuff. I mean, those things are very, very valuable, I think. So I vote for you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, Matthew is our chief infrastructure officer, responsible for a lot of those tools. Everything he does is open source, and he's very open. He's always sharing, hanging out, sharing his knowledge. So yeah, I'm really lucky. We have an awesome team, even beyond.
Yeah, you do. I think we covered this exact point last time you were on, but it bears repeating.
Can't help ourselves. Huge fans. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Daniel. I'm sure it's not the last time you'll be joining us on the show, but we know you are busy, so it's always appreciated.
I'd love to come back anytime. Let me know.
Sounds
Thanks, Daniel.
Good. Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, as you can see, we're in different clothes. It's a different day. We're changing up how we are recording around the block a little bit, so we can be more timely on some stuff that's timely and get some better guests. Although we've had no shortage of great guests. Yeah. So hey, thanks, Daniel Keys. Awesome info on Pomelo season 4. Can't wait to see how that's going. Anyway, hey, Leah, Nathaniel, great to have you guys here. Let's talk about our super fun segments like BS of the week. This is a good week for that.
There's some serious BS going on this week.
Yeah, lots going on. Ever since FTX hit, there's nonstop drama in crypto land.
Oh, yeah.
So the biggest breaking story, I think, is Apple and Coinbase Wallet. Like, you cannot get Coinbase Wallet on Apple Store anymore, which of course is a centralized monopoly. Let's remember. What's up? Maybe give us the deets.
Well, basically, what has happened in the too long didn't read version is Apple has decided to use the FTX drama to their advantage by recklessly and really frivolous case throwing Coinbase Wallet off of the App Store. Their reasoning is that the Coinbase Wallet has in-app purchases, what we in crypto land call, transactions, sending money to each other. And Apple has said that because these are in-app purchases, they will need 30% of all those transactions.
These are mainly around NFTs, right? So if you buy an NFT, they want 30% of the sale price and the gas, or just the gas?
All transactions.
All right. So it's showdown time, right?
Yeah.
They can't both win.
No.
Do you know who wins? Side loaders.
Well, no one wins.
No one can side loaders win.
I can't wait. I've been wanting Apple side loaders for a long time. We just need one that everyone goes, okay, the whole crypto community at least is going to go to this. Hopefully everybody, break their monopoly. So you can't put something on an Apple iOS device really unless you go through a whole bunch of, jump through a bunch of hoops, right? And do what's called a side load, right? Otherwise, you can only really go through the Apple Store. They have control of that, and they've got a complete stranglehold on, a big component of the mobile device market, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this was pretty shocking to me because if we're going to define basically everything as in-app purchases, this is going to be quite expensive to be a developer and kind of just make any kind of money. Apple, I don't understand truly why they would do this, except that, I mean, I know for money, but also it seems like they're just trying to clear out the space as they've done before in the past to make way for something they're probably working on or something, partnerships that they have coming.
You can download the Venmo app from iOS, from Apple Store, right?
Yeah, that's why it seems almost purposeful, strategic situation.
It's the same thing.
Definitely strategic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like them saying, okay, we're going to take 30% of every Venmo transaction. Same thing to me. Okay, we've got another one that it's really interesting because I think a lot of people haven't heard about it. And I didn't even hear about it until last night when somebody very close to me, who's a very successful business person, said, hey, I have not had email access for like 3 days. And I have, deals that I can't respond to people. I can't see what they're coming back to me. What's up? And I said, oh, I'm sure I could probably help you with it, but let's see if I can wake up Nathaniel because he'll be better. And you graciously helped me do this and help this person out. But it wasn't easy. And I hadn't heard about it and you hadn't heard about it. And the news is that a major or very large, at least, cloud infrastructure provider just shut everybody down. The message board around this is insane. Everybody is like freaking out because these are a bunch of people who put their businesses on Rackspace and now can't do anything. And Rackspace is pretty tight-lipped about it. Nathaniel, you want to dive a little deeper on that for us?
Sure. Huge YouTube sponsor Rackspace, we're not sponsored, has gone down, and they took themselves down willingly, trying to avoid the exchange exploit proxy not shell. And they've been down that entire time. What proxy not shell does is allows you to get access to the exchange backend. And so that's why they shut it down. Microsoft Exchange has patched it, but apparently Rackspace didn't. So people have no access to their emails. They have no access to their web development stuff. If they put their website on Rackspace, that's currently down. They just shut everything down, expecting that there was going to be something big. And it has been quiet chaos since. They've been just telling people, go move to other things or go get your email this way or that way.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy, right? Because there hasn't been an actual exploit, but they've been very tight-lipped about what it was until, what you've just talked about. For a couple of days ago, I don't think they were even saying that. They haven't been hacked. They just shut down, but they're the kind of critical business infrastructure for any of their clients that it's like,
can't do that. You can't.
They've stopped their business.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, people's businesses are being affected. And
as you said, okay, they're telling people where to go and what to do, but those aren't effective instructions, right? Like you're arguably an expert system administrator, very high level. Don't be modest. I wouldn't be paying you, right? But you wouldn't be building D-Store with us. There's a lot of things. You are an expert, and this was not clear cut to you. So think about the frustration of people who don't have this. Most of their people are people who who joined Rackspace specifically because they don't have that person on staff, right?
Right.
They don't have the equipment. They don't have it. They don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Leah, imagine that you've done this, you've set this up, and you've got no idea, when it's going to come back, what you're supposed to do. Your business is down. It's Sunday night. You're freaking out about what's going to happen Monday morning because a weekend's bad enough. But who is going to knowingly go back to them as a client? Let's take a second to talk about our ongoing favorite, which is the FTX drama and the U.S. crypto regulations. So
speaking of
the Earn protocol
surfaces,
has just said, nope, we give up. You guys are too hard. You guys, SEC, are just too hard to deal with. U.S. regulations are too crazy. We've made no progress, and we give up. We'd rather just not do business in the United States. Somebody's trying to get along and do the right thing, and they're like, nope, you guys are impossible to deal with. You don't, which means to me, you don't actually care about building any reasonable regulations or making it possible for U.S. businesses to engage. So we're out. And meanwhile, Caroline, the lovely and talented Caroline Ellison, is off ordering coffees in New York City, and SBF is sharing his very particular and possibly fictional account of things, right? But no one's in jail.
shout out to CoffeeZilla for going after him. He's SBF has been doing a bunch of Twitter casts, and every time CoffeeZilla is in there asking those hard questions, he's getting at it. Mm-hmm.
I love it. It's so cool.
I have listened to, I think, 3 of those spaces now that he's been in. And I am just amazed at how he was able to raise money ever at all. He's not well-spoken. He's not good at even crafting this fake narrative possibly fake narrative he's spewing. It doesn't even sound convincing or well thought of. It's like, did he even write notes on a piece of paper to keep track of? Like, it's just so horrible.
I owe you $10.5 billion. Start Alameda.
I know. And I love that.
You might want to hold on to that one. That's a Lamborghini.
At least I love that at one point he said that about 1 billion was lost to fuck ups. Just fuck ups. 1 billion gone.
Yeah.
This kid, no one should have ever given him money. So I don't understand. It makes me question VC, to be honest. I'm like, what are you guys up to? This is very strange.
Well, there's some who are still embracing him. There are some out there, and we will not name any names on this particular thing, but there are some people out there. They're like, well, would you give him more money? They're like, oh yeah, I give him more money. But even knowing all the things that have happened, oh yeah, I'd still give him more money. Okay.
I think we all know who that is.
It could be anyone. It could
be anybody.
So what do you guys think Caroline is doing in New York?
That tweet said, just 6 minutes from the FBI office. And I'm like, dude, it's Manhattan. You're 6 minutes from everything. You're 6 minutes from, the UN. You're 6 minutes from
the Pokemon Center.
Pokemon Center. Yeah. The Lego Store International. You're 6 minutes from practically everything. So let's not focus too heavily on the fact there's the New York FBI field office there.
You can also see that there's a narrative being pushed by SBF on the other side. So the fact that they're not talking to each other and 2 things are happening at the same time seems like they're setting each other up to just take the fall for the other person.
There's like one person throwing a person under a bus, and another. It's like an Inception level multi-layer bus throwing happening. This has been a great week for BS. We could go for a long time on this, but got to stop somewhere. Nathaniel, do you have a market minute?
I do.
Let's get Moss's market minute. 60 seconds of non-financial advice.
This week in crypto, we have seen a crypto uplift, about 10% on average for most cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin, EOS, Ethereum, all up 4%. SHIB was up 4%. Cardano up 4%. Doge was up 7.2%. Lunacy, why 10% up? I mean, even these ones that everybody is called a shill, they're going up. Axie Infinity went up 40% of its totals, and it's dead. Like, people have called this coin a dead coin, but it went up 40%. Telos was up 15%. Helium was our loser this week. It down 10%, and ApeCoin has continued to fall, and there doesn't seem to be any signs of it stopping. This is not crypto advice, but it seems like if you want to invest, then now would be a nice time to do it. The shills have been exposed. That's me.
All right, I've got a little alpha drop related to that. So Doug's, alpha, drop. All right, Doug's alpha drop. While things are down in crypto, and we do not know whether they will go up or down or what direction they will go, this is classically the kind of time period where the next generation's massive winners will be determined. Doesn't mean you're going to get in on it. Doesn't mean I'm going to get in on it. But the people who will get in on it are people who still have some cash on the table. And that could be VCs. They could have a lot of cash on the table. They can afford to be very picky. They have cast aside their losses and they're willing to look at what's still out there. They can have a 5 to 10 year time horizon on getting their funds back, and they're out looking for bargains. For example, we've talked about Bitcoin and miner capitulation, which is basically when miners mine at a loss for a long period of time. Eventually, they have to realize some kind of income, right? And there were, like, 2014 was a terrible year for this, but most of the miners were then at that point people mining for themselves. Now miners are more and more, they are these big companies that are publicly funded and therefore can't just say, oh, well, it'll go up someday. They have quarterly reports and CEOs and all these things. So places like Genesis Digital had some news this week about what their income and whatnot are like. And these companies can't just hold on to losses and hodl until the price goes back up like miners of the past could. What you're going to see, I think, are a lot of companies having to sell, having to capitulate, going bankrupt, and a lot of mining equipment coming on the market. And so hash rate's going to go down. There's going to, in this scenario, which is not guaranteed to happen, but already we are seeing a lot of things around this. Hash rates may go down, a lot of equipment may come on, and people who come in and pick that up, right, at pennies on the dollar, may be poised to do very well in the next round, the next summer, right, crypto summer. And similarly, not just with hardware and electrical contracts and things like that, because you need all of those things to be a profitable Bitcoin miner these days, right? And they not always easy. Sometimes these guys get great Bitcoin mining contracts just on electricity, right? And that's what makes them profitable. All these things are going to, weigh and get scooped up, and the people who scoop them up are in a great position to make a lot of money potentially. And the same thing comes with really exciting technologies like AI and blockchain and the nexus of the two, things that are happening right now that could be extremely exciting technologies. I mean, personally, I put dStore in there because it's cloud storage, right? And with a Web3 version. And I think that these are just really exciting times for the technologies. For some people, it's not probably going to be any of us. It's probably going to be the people who look at this very carefully, have long time horizons. But these are the times when crypto fortunes are made. So if that applies to you, you might be doing some lovely Christmas shopping, for your grandchildren's trust funds over the next several months. Anyway, that's my alpha drop. Fortunes to be made even in the worst of times, or especially in the worst of times.
All right, Douglas, we're going to have to meet after this call, and you're going to have to walk me through that whole situation.
I will happily get together with you and talk about that. Well, thanks everybody. Super week, crazy things happening as always. And here we are, your pals, to share our insight. Aren't you lucky? like, subscribe, tell your friends, write a letter to your mom. It's always good advice. And we'll see you next week.